Thomas Markle, he's due to turn 80 next year, and as we know, he's not been a well man recently, and indeed it was a brush with death just last year that renewed his plea for reconciliation with his daughter Meghan, or Meg, and her husband Prince Harry.
And I'm delighted to cross to Rosarito, Mexico, where we're joined by our friend Thomas Markle, the father of the Duchess of Sussex.
It felt like the perfect day to address a theory that many people out there have been speculating on, that Meghan Markle has lied about her age. Is she actually older?
I thought I have to get my side into this.
They got me interested in trying it out, and the first time out, it worked. I called, it doesn't work anymore, and there's no address I can write to, so I have no way of contacting my daughter. The royals own me. Harry owes me. Meghan owes me. What I've been through, I should be rewarded for. To be honest with you, I love both my daughters. I'm not happy with what one of my daughters is doing. And I don't know what caused her to do this. We've had this conversation before. She's telling lies. I guess heartbroken. I'm very upset about it as well, because this is a cruel thing to do to our grandparent. Not just me, to the King of England as well. You know, Harry and Meghan are living like hermits in a 26-room house. They don't have, they never have parties, they never have guests.
Worried that Harry and Meghan might end up suing you for something you say, given you know they're very friendly with their lawyers, aren't they?
Well, they can sue me, but what are they going to get?
Samantha Markle has never told me a lie. Every single thing that she has said about either you or Meghan has checked out over the past couple of weeks, because your other daughter, Samantha Markle, a woman who you know I have a lot of respect for, and I've said publicly, and I will say it again because I know she's the subject at the moment of quite a vicious attack.
Thomas Markle didn't come back into the spotlight to fight. No, he didn't come for fame or money or some desperate craving for attention. He came back because, in his own trembling words, the story about my daughter no longer matches the truth I lived. And when a father says that, when a man who once held that baby girl in his arms says that, people stop scrolling. They listen. Because that isn't gossip. That's a confession from a heart that's been heavy for too long. This isn't some outsider speculating. This is a father who remembers the smell of the hospital room, the sound of her first cry, the very day the world changed for him. He paid for her school, her clothes, her acting lessons. Every dream she ever chased, he funded. So when Thomas Markle says the timeline being told to the world today is wrong, he isn't guessing. He's remembering. And not just wrong by a few months or a misunderstanding. No. Thomas says it's wrong by 6 whole years. And that number, 6, isn't random. It's written, printed in black ink, on a page most people forgot even existed. It's there, on page 90 of 17 magazine from 1997. Not a blog, not a gossip column, not a rumor. A physical archive, something you can hold in your hands at a library. It lists Meghan Markle's age as 21.
Markle is lying about her age. In fact, they think she's older. And not a surprise here, because yeah, she lies a lot about her stuff. We've caught her in so many lies. Her own sister has come forward, her family, everybody is exposing the lies that she's been telling.
21 in 1997. Do the math. If Meghan was truly born in 1981, she would have been 15 that year, not 21. 15. So how do you explain that? Thomas isn't shouting this with anger. No, his voice is soaked with disappointment. A father's kind of heartbreak, the kind that sounds like someone realizing the world no longer believes the truth he saw with his own eyes, because he knows exactly what that number means. This isn't about vanity or celebrity, it's not about some silly magazine mistake, it's the first domino in a chain that knocks down everything else. School records, career timelines, the royal story. Once that one domino falls, the whole fairy tale starts to wobble. That little line buried on page 90 of a teenage magazine should have been nothing. But once people did the math, everything exploded. Because if that magazine was right, if Meghan really told them she was 21, then her entire public life shifts by 6 years. 6 years isn't a typo. It's a lifetime. It changes everything. Her schooling.
In California, I can actually sue to see them, but I don't want to do that. And the other thing is, I've done nothing wrong. There's nothing that points to me says I'm a bad guy. As a matter of fact, I'm a really loving father, and and she knows that, and there's no excuse for her to treat me this way. No excuse to treat the king that way as well. It's really ridiculous. No excuse.
Her acting timeline, even her relationship and pregnancy milestones. Suddenly, the modern 36-year-old bride the palace sold to the world turns into a woman in her early 40s walking down that aisle. But here's the strange part. This magazine wasn't published when she was famous. Back then, she wasn't a royal. She wasn't trending. She wasn't being shielded. She was just another young woman hustling to get noticed in Hollywood. So why, tell me, would a magazine list her as 21 unless that's what they were told? That's the question no one can answer, and the one everyone's scared to ask. Because if her age was one thing back then and another thing now, who changed it and why? This is where everyone leans closer to their screens, eyes wide, tea forgotten. Because it's not rumor anymore, it's ink, it's print, it's permanent. Once you see that number, you can't unsee it. And worse still, this isn't the only time Meghan suddenly seemed older than her own story. There are class photos, reunion shots, alumni pictures where she's always standing among people who are now in their early 50s. So why does Meghan keep appearing in groups tied to birth years around 1975 instead of 1981? That magazine was the spark, but these school photos, they were the gasoline. Because the deeper people dig, the more her timeline twists and eventually snaps. Her official birth year, 1981, should put her around 43 today.
Story I never have since it came out. The suicide.
And that she was 21 years old at the time of publication. That would make her birth year at around 1976. However, why is it saying here she was born 5 years later in 1981?
Yet she's constantly surrounded by people 10 years older, 52, 53, 54. Not strangers, not colleagues, classmates, club members, people she studied with, socialized with. And that one photo, oh, that salsa club photo from Northwestern University, sent the internet into flames. A sweet, harmless snapshot of smiling students, until people checked the ages. Almost everyone in that photo was born in the early 70s, meaning they're in their early 50s now. Yet there she is, smiling right between them, supposedly 6 to 8 years younger. So which story is true? Was she the bright-eyed 20-something she claimed, or the same age as everyone around her? Because really, who joins a college club full of people nearly a decade older unless they belong in that same age bracket? Alumni lists, reunion flyers, yearbooks, they all tell the same story. Meghan fits a 1975 to 1977 birth range. Even her sister Samantha once said it herself. Meghan is not 12 years younger than me. And Samantha wasn't guessing. She lived it. She saw the birthdays, the photos, the same school events. It's not coincidence, it's a pattern. And patterns, my dear, are stubborn things.
Markle has never told me a lie. Every single thing that she has said about either you or Meghan has checked out factually. And she is now suing Meghan. You're prepared to testify for Samantha against Meghan? Is that correct?
That's the whole thing. The Scooby character gets information from
Odd little
Meghan,
man.
but
Odd little man.
it's all up.
But this age puzzle doesn't stop at yearbooks. Oh no. The next part is where it turns from suspicious to possibly criminal. Because when Meghan married Prince Harry, the world saw a fairy tale carriage, a sparkling tiara, and headlines calling them the young modern couple. But if the age questions are true, if her age was misrepresented, then that wasn't just a wedding. It was a legal document signed under false information. And let's be clear, lying on a marriage certificate, that's illegal. Samantha Markle has been shouting this for years. She says she's ready to testify under oath that Meghan's real age isn't the one the palace declared. And Thomas? He says the same thing. The dates don't match. His tone isn't bitter, it's tired, like a man who's been gaslit by his own child's story for years. Because this isn't about gossip anymore. This is about paperwork, legal documents, the kind of things that don't care about fame or tears. If Meghan knowingly gave a false age, that's not just deception, it's fraud. And the palace? Silent. Dead silent. Even when the birth certificate of Archie came out, instead of silencing the rumors, it made them worse. Normally, royal birth certificates never change. They become historical records, sealed forever. But Archie's certificate? It was quietly edited weeks after filing. At first, it showed Meghan's full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle. Normal, perfectly standard. Then one day, poof, gone. Her name was erased. The certificate was amended to say only Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. No Meghan. No Markle. No Rachel. Just a title. And people went wild. Because who edits a royal baby's birth document after the fact, and why? The palace blamed Meghan. Meghan blamed the palace. But no matter who did it, the damage was done. Because once the public saw a royal record rewritten, they started asking, what else has been changed? What else has been adjusted? And that's when people began to connect the dots: the edited document, the missing birth certificate, the different ages across magazines, the vanishing old photos, each one another piece in a story that doesn't add up. And then, oh honey, came the pregnancies. The part where biology itself started raising eyebrows. Doctors, midwives, and mothers everywhere started whispering, wait, what? Because if Meghan was actually in her mid-40s during Archie's birth, not her late 30s, that changes everything medically. Harry once described the birth as this calm, candlelit spa day experience. Music playing, soft light, Meghan smiling, then, within 2 hours, they're home. 2 hours after an epidural? Impossible. Doctors will tell you you don't walk out of a hospital with numb legs like that. You don't just pose for photos, climb into a car, and drive home. Not after preeclampsia, not after 2 epidurals, which, by the way, is medically impossible. 1 epidural is continuous, you don't take 2. And even if you could, hospitals don't discharge new mothers with high blood pressure in 2 hours. That's not protocol. And yet that's the story they told the world. So where did that extra hour go between Portland Hospital and Frogmore Cottage? What really happened behind those royal curtains? Then the whispers got louder. If the pregnancy timeline doesn't add up and her birth year doesn't add up, then what does? Because when you combine the medical contradictions with the age discrepancies, it paints a picture that doesn't look like royal chaos. It looks like careful curation. And then, that amended birth certificate. That one edit poured gasoline on everything. Because if Meghan can remove her name from her own child's record, what stops her from editing other records? Once you see that level of control, you start wondering, what's been deleted? What's been rewritten? What's been hidden? And that's exactly what people close to her, her father, her siblings, her old neighbors, keep saying. She's hiding her real timeline. Because that's where everything really begins to crumble. The family timeline. If the magazine raised suspicion and the photos raised eyebrows, the people who actually grew up with Meghan shattered the illusion completely. Her half-sister Samantha was born in 1964, and Meghan publicly claims to be 12 years younger. But those who lived in that same house, those who watched them side by side, say they were never 12 years apart. Not in how they talked, dressed, laughed, or lived. Neighbors said they looked like sisters close in age, not a child and a teen. Teachers noticed it too. They weren't years apart in school, just a few grades, maybe less. Samantha even said it plain as day. She's not 12 years younger than me. And she's right. Some say Meghan was already born when Thomas married Doria in 1972. One family friend even whispered that Meghan came along 9 months later, placing her birth around 1975, not 1981. And when Thomas Markle himself, the man who should know better than anyone, says, "The story she tells doesn't match my memories," you feel it in your gut. He's not bitter. He's tired. Like a man watching the truth he carried in his heart get rewritten by headlines. He says that's why she cut everyone off, not for peace, not for privacy, but because her family knows too much. They know the real timeline, the early marriage no one talks about, the rumors of a child from her teenage years, the yacht years, the hidden Hollywood phase she scrubbed from history. Because you can edit documents, you can polish a public image, but you can't erase memories, and those memories are loud. But oh, it doesn't stop there. Her public life, her interviews, her expressions, even her silence tell their own story. People started to notice things she didn't expect anyone would. Her face, her mannerisms, her tired eyes during moments where she was supposed to look youthful and radiant. At her wedding, people whispered she looked older than Harry. Much older. Was that just lighting, makeup, or the truth peeking through the cracks? Every gesture, every blink, every question dodged about her past started to look like someone holding a secret too big to say aloud. Then the disappearing photos, entire phases of her life vanishing online, then reappearing years later in carefully selected throwbacks. No messy teenage photos, no school lockers, no unfiltered moments. Everything neat, curated, managed, like someone cutting away the inconvenient years that didn't fit the official version. And when the internet brought up the yacht rumors, the photos, the whispered connections to powerful men in her early days, she went silent. The more she denied it, the more people noticed how hard she was trying to bury it. And that only made the age question roar louder. But the part that truly shakes the room isn't her, it's the palace. The royal family, one of the most security-obsessed institutions in the world, either missed all this or they didn't. And that's the real scandal. Because if they didn't know, how? They vet every detail. Backgrounds, documents, family history. Nothing gets through unchecked. So people split into 2 camps. One says the palace was asleep, too afraid to question her because of the race narrative. The other says they knew and chose to hide it to protect the royal image, the wedding, the illusion of a fairy tale. And that silence? That's what people can't forgive, because silence can mean ignorance or complicity. Thomas Markle isn't polished or perfect, but he's a father, and a father doesn't forget the year his child was born. He says the official story isn't true, and his calm voice cuts deeper than any headline. So the question remains, the one hanging in the air like a storm about to break. If Meghan's real age isn't what the world believes, what else isn't? Because one paper, one birth certificate, could end this story in a second. If her age is real, it proves everything. If not, the entire fairy tale collapses. Thomas opened the door. The truth is closer than ever.